Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine an endless plain, a carpet of wild grass stretching as far as your eye can see, merging with a horizon that seems to curve around the world itself. You are there. Feel the air. It is fresh, ancient, an air that has caressed the same stones, the same rivers, for countless millennia. Above you, a vast, immense sky, dotted with lazy clouds that travel slowly, without haste, as if time flowed differently here. There is a deep silence, not the silence of absence, but that of a monumental presence that has not yet revealed itself. Only the wind, its whisper, is your only company, a faint voice that brushes your skin, that plays with the dry blades of grass, that tells you untold stories. Listen carefully. There is no city noise, no murmur of crowds, only the breath of the earth itself. This is a place of origins, a blank canvas where the great forces of antiquity took shape, born of necessity, forged by the relentless embrace of nature. Here, in these infinite steps, life was a constant challenge. Survival depended on adaptability, strength, speed, and above all, on horses. It is in this immensity where the idea of an unstoppable force, a mystical shadow, begins to take shape. You don't see it, but you feel it. It's like a premonition emanating from the ground beneath your feet, an echo of something immensely powerful that is about to manifest. Think of the peoples who inhabited these lands, the horsemen of the steppe, nomads, warriors, figures like the Scythians or the Sarmatians, who already thousands of years before understood the horse not just as a means of transport, but as an extension of their own will, of their own power. Their life was the gallop, their world the horizon. From this silence, from this deep connection with the animal, an idea began to germinate. A practical idea, yes, born from the need to dominate such a vast space, to protect what little they had, to project their own strength beyond what was humanly possible. Here, in the vastness of the steppes, they learned that mobility was not enough. They needed impact. They needed a barrier, a defense that moved. Thus the earth itself, with its demands and its mystery, weaves the first layer of this hidden power. This is where the foundations were laid for something that would transcend simple cavalry, a force that would change the face of war. And as the wind continues to whisper around you, you feel a vibration, still distant, barely perceptible, a promise. The silence, the one that enveloped you, now ripples. You don't see it, you don't hear it with your ears, but you feel it, a deep, rhythmic pulsation rising from the earth, caressing the soles of your feet, ascending through your bones. It's a vibration, barely perceptible at first, like the distant beat of a gigantic heart. A resonance that is not from the wind, nor from distant thunder, but from something that is moving. Slow, yes, deceptively slow. But each pulsation tells you that there is immense inertia behind it, a mass that moves with an unbreakable will. Imagine an echo, not the echo of a voice, but the echo of the earth itself, reverberating under the march of something immense. It's not a sharp sound, not a sudden roar. It's a low, constant rumble that takes over the air. The warriors who faced this, in the confines of ancient empires, didn't need to see to know. Their bodies screamed the truth at them. The wine cup on a camp table would begin to tremble. Water in a bowl would form small ripples. It was the ground itself that became a messenger of doom. This constant tremor, this subtle shake, announces the arrival of a force that knows no haste, only inevitable approach.
It's like a mountain deciding to move, not with the fury of an avalanche, but with the persistence of a glaciation, a force of nature. Think of the vast armies of the Roman Empire, accustomed to discipline and order. Even they, upon feeling this growing vibration in the distance, must have felt a chill. It was a warning that what was approaching was not just another light cavalry formation. This was different. This was a wall, a slow avalanche. There is no panic yet, only an anticipation that tightens in the stomach. The haze of distance still conceals the form, but not the presence. A presence that is not just of metal and muscle, but of the relentless will of a system forged for impact. A feeling of inevitability envelops you. You know that even if the horizon is still empty, what is coming will change the landscape forever. It's a promise, a threat, an omen. And as that vibration intensifies, your mind begins to draw silhouettes, shapes. What kind of creature, what kind of warrior can make the earth itself tremble like this? What heavy armor it must wear, what colossal beast, what a unification of force. Whatever is approaching, it's not just a rider, it's an extension, an amalgamation. And just when that invisible mass seems about to materialize at the edge of your vision, when the vibration begins to transform, to take on a more defined outline, you realize that you are inside it.
Now, the air is different. It is no longer the wind of the steppe that brushes against your skin. You have moved beyond external senses to a more intimate place. You feel the weight, an immense weight that presses on your shoulders, that embraces your chest and arms. It is the cold embrace of metal, a second skin of steel. Every segment, every scale of the armor moves with you. It does not completely imprison you. Instead, it flexes, adapting to each of your muscles, to every breath. It is an articulated, living shield. Beneath you, you feel the immense presence of the horse, its warmth, the rhythmic pulse of its life. Its own armor, the barding, merges with yours, scales and plates covering its powerful body, like a river of iron flowing with every movement. Its breath is deep, measured. You feel it through your legs, through the metal that encases you both. There is no longer separation. The mount, the saddle, the stirrups, everything blurs. You are a single entity, forged in metal and muscle, in will and blood. Your heart beats, but it is not the only one. You feel the drum of its heart beneath yours, a resonance that spreads through your shared body. It is a forced symbiosis, yes, but unbreakable. This union, this being of iron and life, is the result of years of discipline. Endless hours, under the sun, in the cold, every movement practiced, every signal from the rider and every response from the horse etched into muscle memory. It is not just brute force. It is a mind that merges with an untamable spirit. Your will becomes its own. A slight squeeze of the knees, a subtle lean of the body, and the horse responds as if it were its own thought. You have learned to listen to the creak of leather, the rub of metal, the change in the animal's breath. These are secret languages, the whisper of your shared existence, a language that turns you into something more than man and beast. It transforms you into a force of nature. Human fragility, fear, doubt, they dissolve within this steel shell. There is no room for them. There is only purpose. There is only the slow, deep pulse of your determination. You are the arm of the cavalry,
the weight of its history, and the horse, your mount, is the driving force, the untamable spirit that carries you forward. Together, you are a living battering ram, a promise of destruction. And as you feel that connection, that unbreakable truth enveloping you, you begin to perceive a change in the air, a new rhythm. It is not your heart's, nor the horse's. It is a rhythm that comes from beyond, calling this unity to awaken.
The silence, which until now enveloped you, is torn apart abruptly. It's not a simple sound, it's an avalanche. Thousands of hooves striking the earth in a relentless rhythm, creating a symphony of thunder that you don't hear with your ears, but with your chest, with every fiber of your being. Your horse, an extension of steel and will, gallops, and you, a part of it, a part of that unstoppable tide, feel the inertia pushing you, forward, always forward. The speed increases, but you feel no panic. You feel an ancestral force dragging you, merging you with the legion that surrounds you. To your left, to your right, thousands of armored shadows move with you. A single entity, breathing the icy air, approaching the point of no return. The world around becomes a tunnel. The wind whistles in your helmet, a sharp whisper that contrasts with the rumble beneath your feet. In front of you, the enemy line, small, fragile. They don't know it yet, but the ground beneath their feet is about to become a volcano, and they, the lava that engulfs. Cataphracts didn't simply charge to collide. It wasn't a skirmish of isolated blows and lunges. It was the materialization of brute force, inertia turned into a weapon. Think of a millennial stone wall, not static, but imbued with life, with steel, with thousands of pounds of muscle and metal that has decided to advance. When this wall impacts, there isn't an explosion, there's a distortion. The world bends, it breaks. It's a collision of pure kinetic energy. You can feel it. The impact isn't just a sound, it's a vibration that pierces through your armor, your body, the horse beneath you. It's the force of thousands of tons of armored life against the fragile barrier of shields and spears. The enemy's first line simply vanishes. It's not a fight, it's a crushing. Shields splinter, spears snap like toothpicks, bodies, weapons, hopes, everything is absorbed by this iron maelstrom. An example of this devastating force could be seen in the charges of the Sarmatians or Parthians, who with their Cataphracts were capable of breaking disciplined Roman formations, considered impregnable. At the Battle of Carrhae, for instance, the Parthian archers weakened the enemy, but it was the charge of their Cataphracts that sealed the fate of Crassus's legions, pulverizing their morale and their capacity for resistance in a tide of steel. The practical implication of this strategy was simple and brutal. This charge not only aimed to destroy the enemy line, but to break their will to fight. It made it clear that there was no defense, no escape, that the only option was terror. And that terror, that profound panic sown by the sight of this approaching tide of steel, that is a theme that in some way endures long after the last hoof has struck the ground. That is the shadow that extends.
After the thunder fades, you feel a different kind of silence. It's not the silence of calm, but the one that precedes the storm, a heavy silence. The true extent of power is not always measured in blows or in the brute force of a charge. Sometimes it is found in the darkest corners of the mind, in the restless dreams of the enemy long before they see you. Reputation traveled like a disease, a grim omen that crept through rival camps. It was the rumor that whispered of invincible giants, men and beasts fused into a single mass of metal, a living wall that knew no retreat.
Imagine the night before a battle. The cold wind seeps through the tent, and you can't stop thinking, not about your sword, nor your brothers in arms. You think about them, about what you've heard, the tales of entire units collapsing, not from direct impact, but from the mere sight of that line of steel moving on the horizon. A primal fear settled in the stomach, cold and dense, a knot that choked you before you could raise your shield. Enemy generals tried to maintain morale, but the eyes of their men already reflected a silent hopelessness. How do you fight against what seems invincible? How do you stop an avalanche that, it is said, crushes everything in its path without even feeling it? It was a psychological war waged long before dawn. Spy reports didn't just speak of numbers or formations. They spoke of the presence, of the feeling that defeat was already written, that the fate of that day was inevitable. It is said that at times entire armies, especially light infantry, would desert or break ranks with just the confirmation that the Cataphracts were marching towards their position. There was no need to charge. Panic seized them, the will to fight evaporated, leaving only the raw need to survive. This shadow, cast by your mere existence, was one of your most potent weapons, an invisible force that weakened the adversary from within. But this terror was not born of nothing. It was forged, it was polished with relentless discipline, with constant sacrifice. After the roar, as the echo of the charge fades, a new silence settles, a silence different from before the battle. This is the one that remains, the stillness that precedes the next day and the next. Here, far from the din, you discover the true soul of their power. You feel the weight of the armor not as a shield, but as a second skin that never quite left you. Every piece, every scale, every link, a part of your existence. And the horses too. Cleaning, polishing, checking, an endless task that consumed hours, day after day. The metal shining under the sun wasn't just for aesthetics. It was a ritual, a promise that nothing would fail when you needed it most. You think of the hands, not just yours, but those around you. They cared for the saddles, the bridles, the leather hardened by use. An obsessive, almost reverential care. Every scratch was mended, every rivet tightened. Because your life, and that of your equine companion, depended on that perfection. A discipline that allowed no forgetting. The training, oh, the training. It wasn't just riding. It was breathing under the weight, moving as one with the beast while the steel embraced you. Hours and hours with the heavy lance, simulating impact. You felt the strain in your muscles, fatigue accumulating, practicing formations again and again until the cavalry moved as a single organism, capable of turning, advancing, or halting with terrifying precision. Imagine the winters on the steppes, the cold biting through your skin, snow accumulating in the folds of your armor. Even so, you rode, you trained. Physical endurance was forged in adversity. There were no excuses for weakness. Your horse, too, was an athlete, its feeding, its rest, its training as meticulous as yours. It became an extension of your will, a kindred spirit under the yoke of the same iron discipline. This life, this relentless routine, was the engine of their legend. It wasn't magic on the battlefield. It was sweat, effort, and an unbreakable will forged in the monotony of preparation. It was the understanding that every minute of this daily sacrifice built the impenetrable wall that terrified your enemies. It was the price of power, paid with every breath, every hammer blow, every kilometer traveled. And though that distant time has dissolved, the resonance of that life, the essence of that dedication, still pulses, an energy that, never quite fades away.
The clamor fades. The metallic echo of the charge, that steel thunder that once enveloped you, now dissipates into the distance, like a wave retreating from the shore, leaving only wet sand. The dust of battle settles with resigned slowness, revealing once again the vastness of the sky, now quieter. You feel a profound stillness, an emptiness that was once filled with the vibration of thousands of hooves, the screech of metal, the breath of horses. There are no more shouts, only the gentle murmur of the wind sweeping across the field. It seems that everything has ended, that this imposing force has vanished into the mists of time. But something remains, a feeling that does not dissipate, the idea of those warriors, of the unbreakable iron mass that you were, of the unstoppable force you felt in your bones. It is a seed planted in memory, not only in yours, but in that of entire civilizations. Their legacy was not just victory on the battlefield, but legend. The terror they inspired did not vanish with the last clash of swords. It transformed, woven into tales, into travelers' whispers, into historians' chronicles. The Cataphracts, those armored horsemen, became the archetype, the standard of what supreme military power meant. Imagine the frontiers of the Roman Empire, watching from afar as those heavy formations emerged from the horizon. The initial panic, the desperation to find a countermeasure, that image was etched, and it endured. It is no coincidence that centuries later, in the European Middle Ages, the sight of heavily armed medieval knights riding their equally protected steeds evokes such a familiar resonance with those ancient horsemen. Although separated by time and geography, the essence, the philosophy behind the armored warrior and his mount was a direct echo. The concept of heavy cavalry, almost invincible, that could break enemy lines with sheer mass and force, was forged in those remote steppes. And that forging, that idea of overwhelming power, was transmitted from generation to generation, mutating, adapting, but always maintaining its core of steel. It is a constant in military history, an almost universal aspiration. The search for that definitive, unyielding force. It reminds us that human fascination with power, with the ability to project an implacable will, is as old as civilization itself. And so, as the echo of their hooves fades into silence, the shadow of their invincibility continues to cast itself, long and deep, across the centuries, a presence you still breathe.